Hello, and welcome to the Fireside Chat podcast, where we share perspectives to keep you uplifted and focused on what matters. The holidays can be a stressful time of year for you and your family, and these discussions are meant to inspire more creative approaches to the season. Tonight, Amy will cover everything from interior and exterior decor to Christmas photos and gift giving to help you save time, money, and your sanity. We'll round things off with her invitation to join us in a North Pole interview on Christmas Eve with your kids. In this episode, Save Your Sanity. Amy, I really enjoyed our conversation last week. Tell us a little bit about why this week's perspective is so important to you. Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation as well. So, just to frame this up a little bit, the reason I feel like Save Your Sanity is really important, especially the timing of when we're putting this out, is, this time of year, as I've already covered in my content this week on Facebook and Instagram, it's just a really stressful time for people because you're taking already very jam-packed schedules and cramming in at least 50% more into your daily activities between the present buying, the decorating, the party planning. The kids are getting out of school, and so all of their work is crammed into these last few weeks to get everything rounded off before their Christmas holiday or their winter break, if you don't celebrate Christmas. And it's just one of those times of year that, as celebratory as it is, it just adds a ton of stress to people, and I feel like it really inhibits people's enjoyment of the holiday. And so the reason that it's important is that here you're spending all of this time and money and effort into creating this magical, holiday experience. And many times that gets lost in the mix. So not only are you spending the time and money, you are also depleting your resources and having a pretty miserable time around that. And so it just kind of compounds the problem. It escalates, like we talked about already in episode 1, seasonal depression. So, it instigates kind of almost this mental health crisis, especially within the United States. I don't know about other countries, but it does create this kind of depressed energy that isn't good for anyone. And then you just couple that with couples are arguing more because now they're spending more money than they're used to, and money is always pretty much tight for the average American household. And the kids have high expectations because of the commercialization. So there's it's like this perfect storm of here's the Hallmark version of what you're supposed to be experiencing, but here's the reality of it. And I feel like it just isn't something that's really addressed. And so people are just throwing all of this money at these traditions habitually and the way that they do things. And if you don't switch it up a little bit and switch your perspective, you're not even getting a payoff from it, which I think is really deteriorating for people mentally. So it's my hope that, we cover some things today that can maybe help some of our listeners out. What are some of the key things people need to look at when trying to save their sanity, as you put it? So number 1 on the list is going to be just time management. It's a big one for everybody year round anyway. So it is learning, because now we're cramming in, like I said, 50% more on top of an already hectic schedule. If you are somebody that doesn't plan properly your time management, this is a time of year is going to completely collapse you and can take you almost the entire year to recover from. By the time you recover from it fully, here we go again, type of a thing. And so time management is going to be at the top of the list. The next one is going to be your money management. Unless you saved all year, which is something I've never even done and I'm going to start trying to do, where I pull a little bit out of every paycheck and put it away into, the season fund. Maybe that's something I'll get into later on in the holiday edition as something that I add to the planning strategy part of this so that you aren't stressed out and you can really enjoy yourself. But anyway, so, your money, so time management, money management's going to be right underneath that. Holiday parties, setting your basically just an overview of your expectations of yourself and of other people. So if you're spending a lot of money and time finding the perfect gifts for others, now you're setting this expectation for what? Those perfect gifts to be returned to you. And so you're really setting yourself up, How many of us have spent hours searching for the perfect gift and we got like soap in return or some homemade cookies. And those things, it's not that I'm not saying that they're not good. It's that you created this situation for yourself in which you have set the bar way too high. And if you can't set the bar high and just give it to give, which a lot of us cannot do, a lot of us have those expectations tied in, that's going to create just a lot of disappointment over the holidays. Instead of being grateful for those cookies or grateful for the soap, you're going to be like, this is it. And it's just going to create this kind of dreary feeling within you. So just an overview of your holiday expectations with the gift giving, of, you know, the vacations, the things that you're going to do for yourself, and making sure that they fit within your budget. So again, looking at your own time and money, what do I have to spend? What do I have to give? And then not setting the bar so fucking high for yourself to give or to overspend that now you're expecting other people to do that in return. Because that's not a gift to yourself or to others when you do that. So I think those are the three main areas that need to be looked at when going into, you know, it's basically 3 months straight of celebrations. And if you can look at those things beforehand and pre-plan a little bit, like right now, you know, we're only in, it's only December 6th. So you're talking about having 3 weeks before you do too much gift buying and before you spend too much money to go ahead and what are my expectations, and then make sure that you are not going outside of those. Like, you have certain expectations of what you know you're going to receive. Just don't go above and beyond so that you kind of create now this unrealistic expectation around the holiday. Money is always a big issue, especially this time of year. Can you share some insight into how our listeners can participate in simplistic cheer? Just don't overbuy, I think, across the board. So when you're going to buy gifts for a friend, instead of getting them, some of us, and I know I've been very guilty of this, I'm getting 2-3 things per person as opposed to just one thing. So basically paring down our expenditures in every area, and also looking at what are some things that you can swap out. So traditionally, for just an example, you know, I might get my nails done. This is just for basic maintenance year round. I might get my nails done, get massages and facials at certain points in time, you know, twice a month or once a month. And I might scale some of that back so that I have extra funds and I'm making up for it so I don't stretch myself too thin. Maybe going out to eat less. So looking at places that you can conserve money, things that you spend normally year round, okay? So non-seasonal things, going out to the movies, just going out dancing, different things that you do. So scaling those back so you do have more available resources for all of these extra things that you're doing. So I think that's the biggest way that we can look at saving money, or at least managing what we have within the confines of our budget that we've already created for ourselves, that we're usually pretty comfortable with, unless you're a big spender and you've got a massive amount of credit card debt. You know, so this is for people that really do pretty good with budgeting. I'm not saying you have to be perfect at it, but this will be very helpful. And then also, like I said, I'm going to promote this idea of creating a holiday fund for yourself, where you just figure it out. What do I normally spend, you know, between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and then create a way for you to pull that money out. So maybe that's $20 every paycheck that you stash away, and then you have those funds available. So I think that's another way that we can kind of combat this, you know, the money issue, and paring down what you feel like you need to give. You know, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays because there's no gift giving attached. The gift giving has gotten out of control. We're not just buying for our immediate family members and for the kids. Now it's every teacher, and I'm not saying teachers, I love you, I respect you, I was one for a long time. I'm not saying don't give gifts to your teachers, they work very hard. But maybe you're paring down, you know, your coworkers. It's just at a certain point, that little $15 Santa gift, it adds up when you're doing it over and over and over again. So it's just looking at ways that you can conserve some money while still being celebratory. You know, one way that I found, because I've been doing this for years, You know, in our first marriage, me and Lance went into a ton of credit card debt every single year just to buy gifts. And it got to a point where I was telling people in my life, the gift you can give me is don't get me one. And I'm not going to get you one. And I'm not having to deal with, you know, going into Target with a cart and just hunting for something to give somebody. It's very stressful. And so that's another thing that you can start practicing. You would be surprised at how many people are like, fuck yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a great plan. And it's a relief. So we can share a meal and get together, and that's the gift, you know, but we don't need to add on the extra just money and time spent searching for the perfect gift for each other, because it's exhausting. It can be very depleting. I agree with you 110%. What are the benefits to finding a way to still participate, without going into debt? I mean, the biggest benefit is peace of mind. It goes a long way. It goes a long way year round, but especially this time of year, when you see those credit card bills coming in, because there's so many expenditures during the holidays that you're not really paying attention to. You know, the extra lights for the trees, the recipes, not just for the home cooking, but for the parties that you're going to. And they start to stack up. And, you know, most of us can manage the smaller stuff, but when you start stacking hundreds of dollars being spent on the gift buying, it really creates a level of stress that it takes away any pleasure that you're getting from the holiday. And I firmly believe that people that suffer from seasonal depression are very cognizant of this. And so they are looking at, okay, I'm supposed to be fucking happy, but this is the actual thing that's happening. And so I want to say they're more energetically sensitive. And so they're actually picking up on the undertone that's underneath all the people smiling like, this is fucking great. We're participating in this, but we hate it. We really fucking hate it. And so they're picking up on those cues, you know? So the biggest benefit is peace of mind and being able to focus on what matters, which is your family and friends getting together, getting things to slow down at work a little bit and the kids at school. So you're kind of getting to switch gears, which is one of the favorite parts of it. Your schedule, you're out of that kind of like Groundhog Day mentality where you're doing the same fucking thing every day. Things are more quote unquote relaxed. How about you let them be relaxed like all the way across the board? And how much more rejuvenating it would be. Most of us wouldn't need to go on holiday vacations because we would feel re-energized just by being at home and by allowing ourselves to enjoy the experience. Why is decorating your environment important to celebrate the holidays? It shifts your mindset, is I think the most concise way for me to put that. There's something about cleaning and clearing your space and putting up some sort of festive, whether it's flowers and decorations, it just changes your environment just enough that it tricks your brain that you're somewhere new, that you're somewhere exciting. Again, it's shaking up that whole Groundhog Day mentality. It creates a more magical, sacred, when I say magical, I'm not just talking about, you know, Santa and everything, and the imagination behind Christmas, which I love, by the way. It's bringing in that spiritual element, that element of creativity, that spirit of creativity, and it does something to the brain. It just cheers you up. It's really a mood lifter, and it shifts your regular thinking. So it's going to put you into a more creative mindset. You know, you'll see this a lot on the holidays. Dad's home from work, and now he's out in the garage working on something, and mom maybe picked up the paintbrush for the first time in forever when she's got some downtime, you know, and she's working on, she doesn't even care. She's just having fun. Yeah, it's one of those things where it activates that part of people, and I think that's one of the most pleasurable things that you get out of the decorating experience. For people who don't have the time or money, is there a way for them to create an inviting environment without buying anything new? Please give them some pointers on what they can do to create a special space this time of year that will help with seasonal depression. I really love this question because it does require money, right? Buying flowers and a Christmas tree and all of this. So, and if you aren't all that into decorating, what can you do to, just kind of spruce up your environment and change it? First of all, you can move some furniture around. You can move the decorations or things, the ornamentation that you already have in your home. Maybe you have some sacred pieces that you keep. You clean those, you move them into a different location, and you rearrange things. I'll do this several times a year, and it really does wonders for your space. It you can feel the energetic shift. And so if you don't want to buy anything new, you can also find things that maybe were in your closet that you've put away and swap them out for the things that you've had out for a while. It's all about just changing the space enough to, like I said, activate this creative center within your brain. And doing just that right off the bat is going to be very helpful. And I think that's pretty much the biggest pointer that I have is creating a sacred space doesn't necessarily mean with Christmas decorations. I always recommend getting some sort of natural beauty in the space that you're in. So a potted plant, some flowers. A potted plant's going to last a lot longer, where flowers are going to wilt after only a few days. So go to Kroger. They're like $7.99. I know it's still money, but you can do things like that really add an energy and beauty to the interior of your home that goes a long way, because you're in there most of the time. And so anything that you can do to make that environment as aesthetically pleasing and energetically inviting, the better you're going to feel. Holiday parties are fun, but can be draining emotionally and financially. Give us some ideas on how you approach them. Nobody loves hosting or going to parties more than I do. But one thing I learned, because I have a wonderful network of friends that throw excellent holiday parties, whether it's Halloween, Christmas. I have two friends in particular, Kristen and Tim. They both usually go all out. And they're so much fun, right? Both of them, any of their parties that I ever go to, I really enjoy myself. So the only thing is you have to be prepared mentally to deal with the level of chaos that comes from holiday parties. I mean, that's just going to happen at any holiday party. There's music, there's, Secret Santa, or Dirty Santa, I think is what they called it, which is a lot of fun. So, everybody's talking over each other, there's drinking, there's food everywhere. It's chaos. And so it can be extremely draining. So number one, I want to say to people, because I'm one of those weird types where I go really extroverted for years and then I introvert for years. So it's like this push and pull in my personality. I'm one of those people that if I'm not really in tune, I can't just go to a holiday party and have a good time, eat a little bit and be social and then leave. I'm either all in or I can't do it. And it's okay if you're that type of person, so don't feel bad about that. It's all about you checking in that year with yourself and saying how many, like they say in the mental health community, how many spoons do I have? And if you don't have very many, you're just not doing yourself or anyone else any favors to show up at a party looking drained, and you're there because you didn't want to say no to the invite, but you're not really adding to anything. So just don't do that. Don't be afraid to say, no, I can't make it this year. But on that note, once you've checked in with yourself, if you're like, no, I really want to do this, then just make sure you do all of your planning the day before. If you're bringing something, it's like a potluck and you're contributing, which is usually the case, make sure you've done what you need to do to prepare yourself so you're not running those last minute errands the day of, because it's going to frazzle you. I always like to take a nap. I like the day of, maybe I'm getting my nails done and taking a nap. But even that, I try and have the nails done the day before, so that the day of the party, I can sleep in. If I'm making something fresh, I can focus on making the recipe and bring that fresh to the party. But I've already got my outfit picked out. Just do everything that you can to prepare yourself so that you're kind of going into it prepared. And all of your energy that day, look at it this way, all the spoons you do have is going to be used at the party to have fun and to be engaging with the other guests that are there, and of course the people that are hosting. The Christmas portrait is a classic tradition that can induce stress for the entire family. What are some ways our listeners can participate to make it fun and easy? It really is a classic tradition and one that I'm a big fan of. It's just the stress that it brings. It's like everything else during the holidays. It's got to be perfect. Everybody's not on the same page that day. So I feel like one way, and this is just pointers for people that are going to skip the portrait altogether. There's nothing like hiring a professional photographer, whether it's somebody that you know, and having them come over and help you with this, or going to a studio. You're never going to get that level of a portrait any other way. However, if you're going to skip the portrait tradition or you just don't have the money for that, I really suggest just do it at home, do it yourself. And some pointers, it's just going to be like your portrait when you go into a studio. Get everybody on the same page as far as what you're wearing. I'm a big fan of just solid color, avoiding lots of different varying patterns. It's like with your interior decorating. It induces stress when you look at the photo if people are all in clashing colors and different patterns on their clothing. And so getting everybody on board to be in the same color. I've seen this done a lot where it's like the white shirt or a black shirt with jeans. I love that. Or, sweaters, just something that makes a statement that's simple. And you're really focusing on the expressions and the people in the photo as opposed to what they're wearing. That's what that does. It helps with that, to kind of create this uniform look. And then, if you have a baby, another fun idea is to reverse those colors on the baby. So if everybody's wearing red on top and, jeans on the bottom, maybe they've got little, like a jean shirt on with red bottoms, just reverse the color, the pattern, whatever you are wearing, solid color. If there is going to be a pattern, maybe like a light pinstripe or something like that, but nothing too crazy for the eyes. And another recommendation is to go outside, just have a nice natural background. It always looks good, you can't beat it. With lighting on the interior of your home, if you're taking like the photo in front of the Christmas tree, if you can position everyone facing the windows, just open the blinds so that natural sunlight is coming in. So, you want to take the photo not too early and not too late in the evening. That's going to cast these weird shadows on your faces. So in order to kind of get that finished studio look, having everybody facing a window. If you don't have a window, getting a ring light and putting that behind your phone does wonders. It really does help. Don't just try to adjust it in your phone. So yeah, these are just some pointers, and then you can take them into pretty much there's tons of, apps on your phone that can give you a more polished look. So softening the faces, but don't overdo it. It blurs your face. That's when somebody's over filtered something, is basically instead of enhancing the photo, it really deteriorates it, meaning it takes all the detail away. So you should still be able to see the patterning in the face. Just don't soften things to the point you're kind of blurring your entire face out. And then you can always put a little vignette. During the holidays, you can put a white one to kind of switch it up, but a vignette will also help you to focus in on, again, what's important, which is the expressions and all of your faces. And make sure you take at least 20 to 30. I know that sounds annoying, but you'll definitely get that perfect one if you do that. So yeah, those are my pointers on that. I know you love to cook. Tell us about your build a 5-course Italian Christmas Eve dinner and how those who usually do the cooking might take this year off or enlist help from their family members. Yeah, when I was creating the holiday edition for Live Life Creatively, I came up with this right after the Elf on a Shelf, Craft a Christmas Mystery. I thought I really want to also offer recipes. What if I offer one recipe and build out? This is traditionally what I make every single Christmas Eve for my family. And it's a really delicious meal. It's very satisfying. It takes several hours to work your way through it, so it creates a bit of a dining experience as opposed to you just sit at the table, eat one plate of food, and then it's over. And it brings back memories of my grandmother, who is no longer with us. And it just felt good to honor her memory this way and my Italian roots. So yeah, every Wednesday, I believe, I put up recipes. Every Wednesday is a recipe. I've already put up the antipasto, which is just stuffed mushrooms. It's one of my family's favorites. It's a little bite-sized food before the appetizer, which I put up this Wednesday, or no, that's coming up, is the stuffed artichokes. And so by the end, as you lead into Christmas Eve, you're gonna have this meal, and I round things off with a chocolate fondue, which is really delicious as a dessert with this meal. And chicken parm over angel hair or linguine, whichever you want, is the main course. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. So you can go onto my Instagram or Facebook and download the recipe card, and there's just the written instructions so that you can actually see it a bit better. And then, yeah, my advice for those of you that always do all of the cooking, I'm not saying you don't build out this one meal, but I am saying, and if you do it, maybe assign, somebody buys the groceries for you and puts those up. Somebody washes the mushrooms. This type of kind of thing where you're assigning, if you're anything like me, you try and do everything on your own. And it gets really draining, and then you start snapping out on everybody, which is not a gift. So yeah, just go ahead and put that in your mind that there are other people in the house that usually, if you just ask for the help, they will be there to help you. Instead of being in that mentality that you have to do everything, definitely let them do the dishes afterwards. And then this year, some of you may decide you want to take the year off completely, especially if you're flying solo, and go to other people's homes and enjoy their traditional meals that they make. So there's nothing wrong with embracing that. Just because you've always cooked doesn't mean you need to be locked into it. And I definitely recommend, if you don't want to cook, like if this year you're just feeling, no, I don't want to do it, don't be afraid to state that. Like me, seeing I'm the one that traditionally cooks it, I might say, if I didn't want to cook this meal, I might say, we're either somebody else can come up with some different idea, and you want to do this though weeks in advance. Don't just spring this on people, the night before. Or let's go out to dinner. We love Korean barbecue, but we normally do that on New Year's. But these are all things that you can do. You can go outside your normal traditions. So just check in with yourself, like with the holiday parties. Is this something I really want to do? And if the answer is no, don't force yourself, is my best recommendation. You also annually enjoy a family cabin trip this time of year, as many families do. What are some suggestions if finances are tight to save the money and have, as you call it, a staycation? Yeah, this year especially, even if you've got the money, people are kind of holding out to see what's going to happen in our country if you're in the United States. And that is a smart thing to do. It's not that you're panicking. It's not that you're trying to be a bah humbug, Scrooge. It's that you're just being smart, right? So embrace that. But what you can do, and what I recommend, especially if you have younger kids that really enjoy this tradition, really the thing that makes the cabin trips especially so fun is, again, it's a change in the schedule, and that mom and dad are there, we're playing board games, we're going in a hot tub, we're staying up late, we're doing things a bit differently than what we're used to doing. So figure out a way to do that within the context of your home. So, you might plan a family outing to take the kids out for a double feature of movies that have just been released, or to the arcade, Dave and Buster's, something like that, and take them out for a meal. But then you make sure, maybe plan that weekend, you have special meals, baking projects, crafts. Let the kids, pitch a tent in the living room near the fireplace and put their sleeping bags out. Something that promotes a sense of we are outside the ordinary confines of our usual schedule will really do it, honestly, for most kids. They just want the time with you. Play board games, make it a point to just kind of replicate the vibe, whatever you do at the cabin. Or if you go somewhere else, try and replicate that. Maybe take them swimming at the YMCA if you don't have a pool or a hot tub at home. Just do things outside of the normal routine and map it out over like just 2 days. And they'll be happy with that, believe it or not. What are some things you can plan for yourself to help keep you focused and motivated while contending with the seasonal squeeze? I'm a big proponent of self-care. So, getting the manicure and pedicure, getting a facial, a massage. I have memberships for all of these things. But so I'm already paying for it year round, making sure that you get those things booked for yourself, and just putting some of that time and money into yourself instead of the overspending on everyone else is going to go a really long way, especially at this time of year. Things that don't involve money and spending money: journaling, if you don't like to journal, you can keep an audio journal. Almost everybody has some sort of default recorder on their phone. And so you can just hit record and start talking, and start talking about what's happening. So giving yourself a way to vent out any angst you're having, maybe around, hosting and the family always behaves a certain way, or the gift buying, or whatever it is. It's basically giving yourself a mental check-in and a way for you to vent and get things clear and worked out in the right perspective, so that you're more conscious when you're going about your day. Why do you avoid this all or nothing mindset? How can people learn to gravitate more towards a balanced middle road? Yeah, I'm not a fan and avoid this all or nothing mindset year round anyway, because it's really corrosive to just our enjoyment of life in general. Having to be the best at something as opposed to being willing to experiment and create. How many people shut down and don't create because they need it to be perfect? So it's either going to be perfect or it's not worth doing. So that gets carried forward into what I'm discussing here is, I'm going to do all the holiday parties. I'm going to do all the gift buying, and they're going to be the best gifts. I'm going to host, the biggest party. And you have this mentality that everything needs to be the best. And I know this from experience, hosting parties and just overextending myself in general. It really is depleting to you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so learning to kind of find that balanced middle road. How can I participate in all of the different traditions, but do it in a way that feels good? Do it in a way that promotes a sense of cheer as opposed to flashiness, and showing off. A lot of us get caught up in our egos. I buy the best gifts. I host the best party. And that ego kind of creeps in if you don't catch it. And it does create that all or nothing mindset. And then also, in the reverse of that, I'm not going to any party. I'm not buying one gift. I'm not going to do any of it, which in turn ends up creating the depression. And so you've got these two kind of extreme, you've got these two extremes on either side of the spectrum. There's a lot of varying grays in between. Things are not so black and white. And so when we are willing to inch our way more into the gray areas, we open ourselves up to a world of possibility to really enjoy the holiday without it inducing so much stress and depression. So those two, I think, really go hand in hand. What's your closing message to those who are finding it hard to focus this year with everything going on? How can they move through the squeeze and pull off a pleasant holiday experience? My best advice is just work within the parameters you already have year round. Don't overextend yourself. Don't go into debt. Don't do things right now that are going to, when on January 2nd, when you wake up and you look at your bank account or your credit cards, you're not putting yourself inducing a panic attack. So follow through on that. Try and conserve your money as best you can so that you can spend it in the right directions. And, follow some of the pointers that I've laid out here. Look at the content that I'm creating. It really is about directing people towards being able to celebrate in a way that fits within the parameters that they already have set. And don't go outside of that, especially this year, because you're just going to be creating more stress for yourself. So just look at this as kind of an experiment for seasons to come, and you can kind of apply what I've been going over here. So yeah, that's my best advice, is just look at the pointers that I've already outlined and work within the parameters that you have. This concludes tonight's episode with an invitation to parents to join us at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve with the kids after our tour of Claus Studios. This will be a fun wind-down activity as you prepare the kids for bed and visit from Santa. You can find information about this on Facebook and Instagram. Please find those in the description box beneath this video.